Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. I am your host, Greg Romero Wilson, and listen, it's playoffs time, it's quarterfinals weekend, and first of all, isn't fantasy football season, it's like summer vacation when you were a kid. Like, it just goes by so fast. You look forward to it all year long. I look forward to it all year long. And it seems to take forever to come. And then it just like Christmas, more like summer vacation, because it seems like once you get there, you're like, oh my God, this is gonna last forever. And then before you know it, boom, it's fucking over. We're already 14 weeks into the NFL season. It's been a crazy ride. Rebecca, how are you? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. How did your team do? Did you make the playoffs? Now, for me, again, I'm sporting double Aikman because I'm calling on the spirit of Troy Aikman to bring it home for me this weekend. It was a Skylar Stone. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Welcome to Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. And good for you. I'm glad that that's the case, Skylar. But listen, I tell you, I finished first place in my comedians league with all the great comedians, and it was an incredible season. We had 2 shows as a league together. One at the start of the season, we just had our final show of the season. That was just a blast. I wound up in first place. The reason, and then in my other league, I squeaked into the playoffs in 5th place. Top 6 make the playoffs. I squeaked in at 5th. Which is where I'd been. I fought my way to get back into 5th place, and then finally I stayed at 5th place. And the reason I'm calling once again on the power of double Aikman, because 2 weeks ago it propelled the Cowboys to a win over the Saints, or was that last week? Last week. And so it keeps helping them to do things. And of course, for me and my team, it helped me. Now, I went 0-2 last weekend. I got beat in both my leagues. But the power of Aikman compelled the other teams that I needed to lose to lose. I don't remember that, Skylar, but sure, whatever. But that's what's going on. So I managed to scoot into the playoffs. Scott Berman, I love it when you chime in. Unfortunately, he can't chime in, but you can type in, buddy. You can sneak in some type in while you're at work and chime in right now. If you do want to join the video, if you have some lineup questions, if you made it into the playoffs, if you're miserably disappointed, you can join the video. You click the little plus button, person button at the bottom. My team sucked this year. You had Hunt. Kareem Hunt wasn't terrible. He wasn't what he was last year, because you had Patrick Mahomes slinging the ball all over the field. You just didn't need him as much. And then, of course, now what happened at the end, he completely fucked you. And if you weren't the first person to find out, someone else grabbed Spencer Ware, and you were sunk in that final week when everybody was trying to clinch a playoff spot. But yeah, Kareem Hunt wasn't as good this year. And this happens a lot. This happens a lot with running backs who come out, and quarterbacks. I know Patrick Mahomes is absolutely going off this year, but remember, Deshaun Watson did that last year, then he got hurt, and then he hasn't quite looked like that this season. Whereas right now, Mahomes looks indestructible, looks absolutely indestructible. But Mahomes, we'll see. And here's the thing: this week I think is very scary. But you have to say this: Jalen Samuels' tight end availability is absolute bullshit, and we'll move away from that. Listen, Scott Berman, let me tell you something. The only reason I wanted him was because Yahoo Fantasy had him listed, designated as a running back and as a tight end, and I wanted to grab him and use him as my tight end. And if you are able to do that this week, I don't know that they can change the designation now. I don't think you can go in and change it. And so guys that got him, they're going to be able to make an incredibly sneaky play in fantasy football. And you are right. He is not designated as a tight end on NFL.com, in daily fantasy, and anything else. He is a running back. But in Yahoo Fantasy leagues, he was designated as a running back, tight end. Thank you, Johnny McCarthy. I do look like the guy in that Progressive commercial. Maybe for a reason. Maybe it lines up. Maybe that's what's going on there. So, if you picked up Samuels and you're going to play him this Saturday, that's the thing. There are some guys. Hey, John, what's up? John Garnett joining us. Feel free to chime in to make all your playoffs. Again, I made both playoffs in both leagues. I have a bye week as the number 1 guy in my Comedians League, which I'm also the commissioner of, in which I picked 12th. I picked 12 out of 12, and I still managed to, and I wound up first in my league. So there you go. That's right. Look at that. Right? Count. Double Aikman. Double Aikman. I call him on the mighty spirit of Aikman to lift my team because in my league of record, I have an incredibly tough matchup because we both have a lot of good matchups that have potential to score a lot of big points. I mean, and the other thing about it is I'm going up against the Berman boys, and he has Adam Thielen, I have Stephon Diggs. He has Juju Smith-Schuster versus Oakland. I have DeAndre Hopkins versus Indianapolis. I mean, we have a lot. There's no back tattoo yet. I said if the Cowboys make the NFC Championship game, I will get a Troy Aikman henna back tattoo. I'm not going to get it permanent. I'm an actor. I can't have that on my body. It's the reason I've stayed tattoo-free my whole life because it is limiting in the acting world when you do that. Reflection, what's up, man? Haven't seen you in a minute, brother. How you feeling? Bill Seeley, how you doing? Did you make it into your fantasy football playoffs? So, no, I'm not a pussy. I agreed to what I agreed to, and I will stick to what I agreed to, but I'm not going to put a silly, bet over my career. Not going to happen. However, I am going to make good on that bet should the Cowboys make the NFC Championship game. Not even the Super Bowl, just make the game. They don't even have to win it. Go fuck yourself. Big Wheezy, how are you, brother? Bring those stinky cigars in here. We're talking fantasy football, harsh reality. All right. So I have a lot of tough, but I have Drew Brees versus Tampa Bay in a double. Talk about a game where I expect him to really deliver. Because, and I'm not just, again, this isn't fantasy. This is harsh reality for the other team. Because the fact of the matter is, Tampa Bay beat them in game one, so there's revenge factor. Then they're coming off a bitter loss to the Dallas Cowboys for their second loss of the season too. So everything's lining up for what could be a monstrous game for Drew Brees. And that is, and don't get me wrong, I am absolutely expecting that, and I'm expecting it to carry me into the semifinal game. But he has Russell Wilson playing on Monday night versus a Minnesota defense that, while they are good, they aren't the dominant defense they were last year. And again, they're playing in Seattle, which I'm sorry. It is a different thing when they go and play in Seattle against that 12th man. All that energy, all that noise, it changes games. And that's the other thing. And for me, if I'm being completely honest, I mean, these two teams, even though projections, fuck projections, he's got great matchups. I've got great matchups. What I think it comes down to, and I'm not even joking about this, I really believe my entire week comes down to Xavier Rhodes. Not Xavier Rhodes. I'm sorry, completely wrong. But about whoever it is on the Seattle Seahawks, that whoever their number one guy is, whoever they cover, if they decide to, and people seem to think that number one defense should be on Diggs, but I think clearly the number one receiver is Adam Thielen, and he should get number one coverage. So it's really about who draws. Thank you. That's right, Simon Sanchez. That's right. Go Cowboys! Órale! Los Cowboys! Los Caballeros! I love it, brother. Double Aikman all day. I'm riding this into the sunset. I'm going to be wearing this every Sunday until we get to the championship games, until it's all said and done. Because right now, the mojo's with the double Aikman, and I'm not going to be giving it up. But some of the things that I like. Now, the one gamble I'm taking, I have all these great defenses. I have the Rams, but they're going up against Chicago. And that's the thing, with the Rams against Chicago, well, the Rams have proven they can put up huge defensive points against a great team. They put up 30 points, and we're the number one defense up against the Rams. Or rather, up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was another game that I shied away from them because I was afraid, they're going to put up, which they did. They put up a bunch of numbers, but they also gave up like 2 pick sixes and a bunch of sacks and all this. However, what we're talking about now is a warm weather team in a very cold weather city with Mitch Trubisky coming back rested, fully healthy. That game scares me, and Mitch Trubisky is not prone to making a lot of wild throws the way that Mahomes can be, and so I'm more reticent to play them. I have Jacksonville's defense, which is playing tonight versus Tennessee. And listen, I think but we have the warm weather team in the cold weather stadium. It's 20 degrees in Nashville, Tennessee right now. That also scares me, even though, again, I think Jacksonville tonight absolutely eats their lunch. I think they absolutely destroyed Tennessee tonight. Because they're playing loose, they're playing free, at least on the defensive side of the ball. And because they have also Angry Fournette. Angry Fournette's going to come out, and I think even though Tennessee is great against the run, I think Angry Fournette comes out and really runs it down their throat. I think ultimately, I think Jacksonville comes out and gets another win. It's this thing where, like, you know what? They're not going to make the playoffs. The pressure's off. They fired the offensive coordinator. The defense is free to do whatever the fuck they want. I do. I have every defense. So I can pick and choose who I want. And I didn't mean to add both Jacksonville and the Giants this week. I have the Giants, I have Jacksonville, I have the Rams, and I have the Ravens. I'm keeping them all. But a lot of those are block plays. A lot of those are to keep those defenses from being picked up by other teams and used against me. And the guy that I'm playing against, he has the Seattle defense versus Minnesota. But Minnesota, I mean, you know, Seattle is that's the thing. I mean, that's a smart play because they're at home. Seattle's incredibly tough at home. Offenses make mistakes and all that noise. It's a very smart play. And so, so for me, I'm just keeping these great defenses with great schedules away from other people because my other guys, listen, we're in the playoffs. I've given up now on Carlos Hyde, Duke Johnson, guys that were just filling roster spots in case someone else got hurt. It's too late. It's game over. I kept LaShawn McCoy. I kept Tyler Boyd. And I dropped in Njoku because I'm playing Vance McDonald this week because, again, the Steelers are against Oakland, and that's a game where I think the Steelers absolutely feast, and I think there's going to be a touchdown in there for Vance McDonald. I feel stronger about that than Njoku, and I picked up Cortland Sutton. I'm not going to play him this week because, again, you just don't know. Just because somebody becomes a wide receiver one, that also means he's going to get wide receiver one coverage. So I'm really... you need the Hawks to win, baby. Playoffs. And listen, the Hawks are fighting for a playoff spot. They're in the mix. So, I mean, listen, I don't want to play Diggs versus the Seattle defense. I understand Seattle defense could do very well, but I'm rolling with the Giants versus Washington, and I'll tell you why. I mean, listen, they're not bringing in some young kid off the bench who's looking to prove himself in the NFL and win a job. They've got Mark fucking Sanchez, a broken down old piece of shit and that's the thing, it's not like he's been with them the whole time so he knows the playbooks. He's had 2 fucking weeks to learn their playbook, which means vanilla offense. Plus, he can't scramble. He's too fucking old. Their offensive line is a piece of shit, and that, and old man Peterson. I mean, and that's the thing, he broke one for 90 yards. Okay, great. Guess what? He still wound up with under 100 yards on the day with a 90-yard run. He only put 8 more yards on the day. It was a stupid fucking mistake by the Eagles, and that's a mistake that the Giants are not going to make. They've got Olivier Vernon. They lost Landon Collins, but they still have Janoris Jenkins, and I think their secondary gets a couple interceptions. I think that defense gets 3 to 4 sacks. I think they get a fumble recovery. I see a touchdown in the mix. I mean, I've gambled and lost a few times this season on streaming defenses, but this week I'm rolling with the Giants against this beat up, broken down, defeated Washington team. Butt fumble. Exactly. The man that gave us the butt fumble. I'm telling you, this is the game. I want the Giants defense. I think the Giants actually feast in this game. I'm also running Saquon Barkley in this game, obviously, because he's Saquon. But, and again, the Washington defense, very tough against the run. However, I just really think that they're going to get tired. They're going to get tired of being out there, and Saquon's going to run all over them in that second half. So while they may put up a decent front in the first half, I think at the end of the game, it's going to be all Saquon Barkley, baby. All right, Kurt Bossa, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy? Do you play fantasy football? You're a married man. You got 2 kids. This is what we do. This is what guys do. I'm doing a whole new routine about why men have hobbies because you got to stop chasing pussy. Once you stop chasing pussy, all of a sudden you have all this computing power available to do something. What am I going to do with it? It was heretofore used to chase women. Oh, where are they going to be? What do they like? Do they like this? Do they want to try that? Do they want this? Should I wear this? Should I do this? Should I work out? Then you get your girl and you're like, I guess I'll try fantasy football. And that's where I'm at. And I love it. There's lots of room in my brain for all the stats, all the numbers, all the matchups. You know, my backup guy, my RB2 is Mark Ingram, who I like because it could be raining there in Tampa Bay. And if that makes the case, it's going to be a heavy run day, which could be good for him. And again, that's going to be one of those games. He's running Gus Edwards against Kansas City. But Gus Edwards, let's talk about those Ravens running backs. Because what we saw last week, okay, yes, Jonathan Mash, you are our regular season champ in my league of record. I am the champ in my comedians league. And again, being the regular season champ is like being valedictorian of summer school. It really doesn't mean anything because now it's like anything. You get in the playoffs and it's a new season, baby, and it's all about who wins in the playoffs. And I plan to win. I call on the mighty spirit of Aikman to lift my team. And that's the thing. I believe that I have a championship team. They just have to play like it. Play like a champion on Sunday and Monday. I really need you on Sunday. Jonathan Bash, exactly. He's like, I am going to lose in the playoffs. Listen, I'm looking at your team. You got a lot of broken wheels, man. And you're one of those guys. But here's the thing. Everything has been breaking your way this year. Everything breaks your way this year. I thought things were breaking my way, and I said those words, and then immediately jinxed myself, and everything fucking fell apart. But listen, that's the way it goes, and I'm riding my team out. And I'm like, this is either the championship team that I thought it was, or it isn't. It's like winning best dress at a nudist camp. That's a pretty good one. I like that. Thank you very much. That's right, Johnny McCarthy. Go Dallas. Cowboys. Cowboys. Yes, it's true. Jonathan Mesh, he's one of those guys. Okay, in my other league, in my comedians league, the team, okay, that had Patrick Mahomes, who else does he have? He has some monstrous players. He has Gronk. He had, Philip Lindsay and Christian McCaffrey, okay, running up points at the end of the season, but he didn't make the playoffs because he was one of those teams, and I had that team this season, where everyone had their best game against him. And that's what happened to me. Everybody, if you look at the record, I had the highest scoring team in our league until the very last game when my team completely shit the bed and I got outscored and the Team Nation wound up beating me by 30 points, I think. But I led all season long and yet was scraping my way into the playoffs because everybody had their best game against me. But that time is over. The regular season is over. This is when champion teams show up. And, okay, Jonathan Mesh, start Mahomes or Phillip Rivers? Whoa, that is a good question. Let's see. I got to look at who they're up against. Let's look at who San Diego is up against. Oh, I have them at the top. Oh, versus Cincinnati. Ugh. Wow, Cincinnati's awful. But you also have Kansas City at home. Where is KC? At home versus Baltimore. A much tougher defense. I'm going to be honest with you. I would not... this is the only time I would say this. Only in this situation, you got to go with Rivers. That's right, Scott Berman. You have to go with Rivers because Cincinnati absolutely sucks dick, and the Chargers are at home. Mahomes is at home as well. Thank you, CC. I appreciate that. I love it. I love fantasy football. I love football, and this is like another way to enjoy all the games instead of just my beloved Cowboys. So I just love fantasy football. It's like it's one of those things. It's like Jack Daniels. When I discovered it, I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for my whole fucking life. But you got to play Rivers. Absolutely play Rivers. I love you too, brother. I love the consistency. Now, Dallas D or Chicago D. Wow, that is tough business. Chicago has got a tougher matchup. Let me see. And Dallas versus Philadelphia. And let's face it, Philadelphia, although they've been playing a little bit better lately, I don't think they're very good overall. They're not very good. Their offense has been sputtering. Josh Adams, their new running back, has been a little bit dinged up. Chicago D is, let's look at this. Chicago's got the Rams. Oh, man, I think in that case, you have to go with Dallas. Absolutely go with Dallas D in that one. Because the Rams are the Rams. They still have Todd Gurley. They have the ability to run, the ability to pass. They got all the guys. I mean, ultimately, I think Rams and Chicago is going to be a tough game, possibly a much lower scoring game than people think. But I would go with the Dallas D. But ultimately, I think you're going to, definitely Dallas. Definitely Dallas versus Philadelphia. Go with the Dallas The mighty Dallas Cowboys. That's my call on that one. And the Dallas defense has been top 3 on the second half of the season, and they're at home. So definitely go with the Dallas defense over Chicago. All right. My brother John Wilson is chiming in here, and he says Doncic. I don't know what that means, John. Did you mean to put that in there? I don't know what that means. So there's a lot of, let's just go through these games. I mean, there's some games you absolutely want a part of, and that's like the Chargers versus Cincinnati. Obviously, you want to play everybody on the Chargers. And here's the thing, that's the other thing. He has Austin Eckler, but he's not playing Austin Eckler because he also has, he has Austin Eckler, and he picked up Justin Jackson. Did he drop Austin Eckler? Oh, shit. He went with Justin Jackson instead, which is fine. But again, that's the only problem with the Chargers. You don't know who's really going to get the ball the most. Is it going to be Eckler or is it going to be Jackson? And the timeshare looks like it's going to be an even split. So he has decided to go with Gus Edwards. But I think the one thing we saw last week is with Kenneth Dixon back, and now... Oh, the Mavericks. Okay, John's talking about the Mavericks. Yes, Doncic, he's the guy, the surprise guy that's been blowing everything up on the Mavericks. I saw him the other night. Now I know what you're talking about. Yes, I'm sorry. I wasn't even thinking about the Mavericks right now. I'm like, is he a kicker? Is he? Yes, the Mavericks right now are surprising the fuck out of everybody. But like every year, I absolutely will not be considering anybody on the in basketball. I'm not thinking about that until after the regular season, until I'm done with the fantasy football playoffs around week 16. Then I can start looking at some basketball. But with the Chargers, it's tough to say which running back it's going to be, but one of them is going to have a fucking hell of a day. And that's the problem you have. And to me, it's going to be Justin Jackson, because Austin Eckler is one of those guys. We've seen this like Tyler Boyd, and possibly maybe we'll see it one day with Juju Smith-Schuster, which is in the number 2 spot, they flourish. And in the number 1 spot, they collapse. And that's absolutely what we saw with Austin Eckler. He's so great when he's behind Melvin Gordon, and then he stinks when he's behind, when he's the number 1 guy. I don't know what it is. I don't know why he goes down like that. It fucking falls apart. With Cincinnati, I think you still have to play, Joe Mixon. I mean, the guy, he does it all. He's going to get you points. He catches, he runs, he's going to do something. But the LA Chargers defense, I think, unfortunately, it's a tough week to play Joe Mixon. You have to. I wouldn't play anybody else. I'm not playing Uzomah. I wouldn't play, and I'm not playing Tyler Boyd. I have him. I'm not playing him. Even though he's the wide receiver 1, I'm not playing him. Pittsburgh at Oakland. This is another one where, play everybody in Pittsburgh. Play the Pittsburgh defense. I'm playing Vance McDonald. He's playing Juju Smith. I'm scared of that. I think Juju has a wildly productive day, But here's the one saving grace. Last week, it seemed like Big Ben and Antonio Brown finally got back on the same page again. And that's what I've been waiting for all season, because I have him in my Comedians League where I'm number 1. And so Rivers is the most underrated quarterback probably in football history. And okay, so that's what Brett Favre said. John Garnett chiming in here. Brett Favre says that Rivers is the most underrated quarterback probably in football history. And there's a reason for that, because he is like Tony Romo. He's like Danny White. He's one of these guys. He's a regular season star that just can't get it done in the playoffs. And the problem with that is ultimately your career is judged by your championships. You're considered a champion by winning championships. Like me, I've won 4. I'm a champion, okay? Rivers, look at Dan Marino. Everybody respects Dan Marino. He's got all those different, various records, but never won the big one. And that's always going to be the asterisk on his career. And so that's why Rivers remains underrated, because he's a regular season superstar who just isn't a champion in the playoffs, which is also one of the reasons that, even when you talk about elite quarterbacks in fantasy football draft time, Phillip Rivers is one of those guys that falls to round 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because he's not one of those guys people are reaching for early, like, ooh, I got to have Phillip Rivers. but this season he's proven a lot of people wrong. Rich Rodovich, how are you, buddy? Steven Glickman, how are you, brother? Welcome to Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. Did you guys make your playoffs? Are you playing this weekend? I have one bye. I have one game. I'm in the quarterfinals. And fuck projections. I hate projections with everything in my heart. And so, it's not something right now that, he's got to drop somebody because he's got to get Melvin Gordon out of his IR position because he's now questionable for this game. Although I don't think Melvin Gordon plays this week. I think they absolutely hold him out again. You were like LeVar Ball. Never lost. I never lost. I was the greatest. I was the champion of all times. That isn't true either. Look, he's got the Pittsburgh defense. This guy's got 3 defenses as well. He's playing some smart ball. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the fact that, is this Giants defense going to pay off for me? Is Drew Brees going to have a big day? I mean, it looks like it's going to be raining in Tampa Bay, which means it could be a heavy run day, which could limit Drew Brees' production. But the same thing looks like it's going to be true in Minnesota. I mean, he's got Russell Wilson, but the forecast right now is a 44% chance of rain. So, whereas over in Tampa Bay, I think it's like a 70% chance of rain. Yep, 70% chance of rain. So, I mean, either way, both quarterbacks could be limited by the rain, and that could ultimately figure into the way this game ends. But I don't think that Drew Brees lets up. I don't. I think Drew Brees goes out there and he has something to prove this weekend, and I think he proves it straight up and down on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that game ends up being something like 43-30. Something high scoring like that. It's because it's on the Chargers. So let's keep going through the game. So New Orleans and Tampa Bay. You want to play guys on both sides. And the problem with Tampa Bay is this. Someone is going to go off. Is it going to be everyone's like acting like Mike Evans doesn't exist anymore because Adam Humphries has been, he's been killing it out of the slot. He really has. But the fact of the matter is 2 out of the last 3 games, Mike Evans has gotten over 100 yards. 110 and 116, something like that. So, I mean, last week he had not a good game, so he is poised for a bounce-back game versus New Orleans, who has given up the most points to wide receivers. I think it could be a big game for Mike Evans. I need it to be, but I can't count on it. It could be dink and dunk, especially in the rain, so who knows. The only guy I don't like in that game is Peyton Barber. I think Peyton Barber doesn't do squat. Jacksonville, Tennessee. This is one again. I think Jacksonville's going to show up. I think they're playing loose. I think they're playing free. They got nothing to lose. I think that defense is going to get all over Tennessee. I think it's going to make it very hard for them to score. I think ultimately this game, it winds up being something like, 17-10. Jacksonville. That's what I see happening right there. Now, let's talk about Denver at San Francisco. I mean, on paper, it seems, I got to tell you, I've got San Francisco winning this game because this Nick Mullins kid, they're excited. He's hitting Pettis. They're getting things going on the ground with that new running back, Wilson. And Denver's a team that's falling apart. They just lost Emmanuel Sanders for the season. And yes, so I think the person that hurts is Philip Lindsay because San Francisco's absolutely going to key on shutting that fucking run offense down and forcing them to throw the ball. And he's going to throw interceptions because he has one fucking receiver left, Cortland Sutton, I picked him up. I'm not playing him because we just don't know. They're going to be all over him. I think this is a very bad game for Denver. I actually like San Francisco to win this game. Now, so that being the case, you have to play Philip Lindsay, but, and in San Francisco, you have to, I would play Pettis. I would absolutely play Pettis. George Kittle, I think, should have a very good day. And the pass rush is going to get after him, but I think they're going to get tired. I think if they run the ball with this Wilson kid, I think San Francisco has a chance to win this game. I think San Francisco, John Garnett chimes in. He says, I think San Francisco throws it, isn't trying to lose their chances to get the number 1 draft pick. I don't think that's necessarily true. They seem to be playing with a little more heart because of the coaching. I think they're playing a little more heart than the Oakland Raiders. I think the Oakland Raiders, but then again, the last couple of weeks, Oakland's been playing tougher than I expected them to play. That's for fucking sure. So, but ultimately, I think they win this because they're at home. Thank you, Jay, for the commercial advertisement right in the middle. This show is not brought to you by Jay. Okay, Jay Holly. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. Let's see here. Atlanta and Green Bay. I like Green Bay. Atlanta's a team that seems to be just fucking up. And again, we have a dome team from a warm weather city playing. I love you, buddy. Playing in outdoors in the cold. This is very bad for warm weather teams. This always favors this absolutely favors the home team that's in the cold, that's used to it. Obviously, Rodgers is looking to pick things up. The Atlanta defense gives them a bunch of run yards. Aaron Jones, play Aaron Jones. Big time week for Aaron Jones. Great week for Aaron Rodgers. Great week for Devontae Adams rather. I think Atlanta struggles in the cold. I don't like Julio Jones. I don't like any of them this week against Green Bay. Not that Green Bay is so great. I just think they're going to suck out there in the cold. That's what I think, and that's the way it's going to go down. I like Green Bay to win that one. Baltimore at Kansas City. Here's the thing. I'm picking Baltimore. This defense is alive and kicking. And I don't think Kansas City is going to... And here's the other thing. I'm going to tell you right now. Patrick Mahomes gets hurt in this game. Now, does it knock him out for the season? No, I'm not saying that. Does it knock him out for a few plays? At least. I think the Ravens, because they've been susceptible to defenses, I think the Ravens defense comes out there because they're not afraid of the cold. They play in Baltimore. They're going to come out there and they're going to punch these guys in the mouth. This is not the game people think it's going to be. I think the Ravens win this game. I love it, but again, I'm not going to play that Ravens defense because ultimately Mahomes can go off. He might go off. He might just be like, do the Mahomes magic thing, and then that could ultimately be the end of the game. But then again, that's another game that I think don't expect big points. If you're barely in the playoffs with Mahomes, if you're playing a quarterfinal match, or you're up against Mahomes in a quarterfinal match, you are in a good position. Now, honestly, if you have Mahomes, you're probably on a bye week. But you're in a good position going up against him this week because this Ravens defense is going to come out and they're going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem for Patrick Mahomes this week. You watch, lock it up, count on it. Giants at Washington. Again, Saquon Barkley. And here's a guy I like this week. Evan Ingram coming back off of injury. I think he's going to be a big part of getting around that Washington front line. I think Evan Ingram is going to have a very good day. Not so sure about ODB because of the fact that he'll be covered by one of their two very decent corners, Josh Norman or the other guy. But again, big day for Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants defense. I think Washington is in full collapse. I think they know that this season is over. And that being the case, I'm rolling with that Giants defense. I mean, and listen, it's not like the Giants defense can't do it. The Giants defense put up 27 points last week against Chicago, okay, because Chicago had the backup quarterback, okay? Now we're talking third string quarterback. I think it's a beautiful day to have that Giants defense, and I'm loading them up. I think they deliver close to 30 points in that. Is ODB going to throw another TD pass? I don't know. The cat's out of the bag on that play now. I don't expect it. But again, it's one of those days where the Giants can pull out all the stops because I think they're going to be really big. I think they're going to get out on them. I think they're going to wear that defense down. I think the second half is going to be all theirs. And John Garnett says ODB needs to get off that team. No. ODB can stay on that team. Eli Manning needs to get off that team. Indianapolis and Houston. Listen, I think this snaps Houston's win streak and gets Indianapolis back on course. The Indianapolis defense is much better than people think. And I think that you want to talk about, again, Drew Brees in a bounce back, Andy Luck in a bounce back. I mean, I still think it's a good game for Deshaun Watson. I think it's still a great game for DeAndre Hopkins. But I think the running game gets stifled. I think Lamar Miller gets slowed down in this game. And the same goes for Indianapolis. I don't like Marlon Mack. I don't like the running game on either side of the ball. Houston's got a great defense. But I think that ball gets out of there. And I think it gets out of Andrew Luck's hands and into the hands of T.Y. Hilton and Eric Ebron a lot. I like Indianapolis to win this and to snap that win streak down in Houston. I know everybody's like, they're like Hansel. They're so hot right now. Oh my God, Houston, they're so hot right now. But I don't know. I think this is the week. I think because it's a dome team versus a dome team, there's no weather conditions. I think Indianapolis comes out. I also think it's a very good week to play Adam Vinatieri. And, of course, Fairbairn, whatever the fuck his fucking name is, Forbath, whatever, go get that guy. I think the kickers have a great day in this game as well. But I'm sticking with my boy Zerline. I don't know. Maybe I should switch over to the Fairbairn. But I think, again, because the Rams are against Chicago, I think that's going to open up some opportunities for him to let that ball fly. And I love me some Legatron. Listen, you build a team of champions and you let champions do what champions do, win you a fucking championship. Whoo! Let's keep going. Detroit at Arizona. Hey. My man, he's playing Kenny Golladay. But Kenny Golladay is going to be covered by Patrick Peterson. And this is, I think, his Achilles heel. I think Kenny Golladay is going to have a really slow day. I really do think he does. But again, Stephon Diggs is up against the Seattle defense, so it's a matter of who shuts down who. But when you really only have to shut down one guy, Kenny Golladay, then it's going to be a shutdown day. And Arizona's a team that's starting to believe in itself. This is a team that's starting to find itself, and they're in Arizona. I think Arizona shuts down Detroit, even though a lot of people like Detroit in this one. I think it's Arizona, and I think they absolutely shut them down, and I like this. And again, this Edmonds kid that's come in and he's stealing touchdowns, maybe that's what they needed. So I like Arizona in this one. I wouldn't play anybody out of Detroit on this game. The Rams at Chicago. I do think the Rams win this game just because they have superior firepower. They just have too many weapons. I think this may be one of those games where Josh Reynolds comes up big again because all their major defense is going to be shutting down Brandon Cooks and trying to shut down Woods. And so I think it could be a Josh Reynolds game. Even though I have him in one league, not going to play him, but I think if you got him and you have to play, I like Josh Reynolds in this one. And of course, Gurley, I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to do great, but not as big as you're used to seeing because the Chicago defense is tough. I actually like this. But ultimately, I don't know. I don't like either defense because I think the Rams, again, in the weather against Trubisky, who's efficient. I don't like the two defenses in this one, but I do like Tariq Cohen. I think Tariq Cohen has a very good day. And don't play any of the Chicago receivers because, again, you don't know which one of them is going to be the guy that's getting open in the matchups. It could be Allen Robinson. It could be one of the other guys. But, again, it's a toss-up. I would stay away from their wide receivers. LA versus LA possible Super Bowl would be crazy. It would be so crazy that it's not going to happen. But it could happen, and oh my God. To have a freeway 405, it's not even a 405. That would be if they're in San Diego. It's the 5. It's the 5. It's going down from downtown to Carson. It's the battle of the 5. The 5 freeway. That would be unbelievable. And it could happen. Especially, again, we'll see if Melvin Gordon comes back. When he comes back. Because he's going to come back, and he's going to come back. It's going to be great. But hopefully he doesn't get injured again. But LA versus LA is absolutely possible, especially with Joey Bosa back on the field. Now you're talking about a very complete Chargers team. Philadelphia, Dallas. Let's just close with that. Philly at Dallas. Listen, I love this. I love my Dallas D. Again, calling on the great spirit of Aikman to carry my Cowboys forward, to get them through this game. The defense at home is going to shut down Carson Wentz. They're going to hurt Josh Adams. They're going to get him out of the game. The guy that could hurt him will be Sproles. He came back last week. He looked great. He's tough to predict. But ultimately, I think Dallas gets it done. I don't think that Philly defense is going to be able to shut down Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott. I think Zeke manages to cut through them. They're just not the same as they were last week. I played them as a defense last week versus Washington. To be honest, they gave me 17, 18 points. It was pretty fucking disappointing considering that I had other defenses that did 30. But of course, I always pick the wrong defense. It's really just the way I go. By the power of Aikman. That's right, He-Man style. Yeah, the power of Aikman. I'm living by it. I'm dying by it. 41 minutes in. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the show. I don't know what to tell you. Listen, we will see each other next week. I'll still be in it next week because of my championship team, number 1, going into the semifinals automatically off the bye week. I got one RB to start. Ingram, Mixon, or Cook. Not Mixon. Ooh, I like Dalvin Cook. Wow. Although maybe Mixon versus the Chargers. Ugh. I mean, I'm not going to say Ingram because he's going to be splitting. I love Dalvin Cook, even though he's up against Seattle. Fatima, how are you? Welcome to the show. Welcome to Fantasy Football. Harsh Reality. I don't know if you're involved in fantasy football, but that's what we're talking about. Thanks for checking it out. Henna Tat just around the corner. I hope so. Listen, I will never be happier. In fact, I'll live broadcast it on Facebook if I get the Aikman fullback Henna Tat. NFC Championship, that's all I can do is make the end. I will have it for the game. I will get it that week leading into the NFC Championship. I got to say, Scott Berman is saying probably Mixon. For me, it's a coin toss between Mixon and Cook. And here's the thing. Seattle's been good at home, but they've only faced 2 top 5 defenses, and they lost both of them. So, this is a very interesting game. For me, it's a toss-up. It's a coin toss between Mixon and Dalvin Cook, and I will leave it to you. Scott Berman, even you were saying probably Mixon. Again, yeah, and this is the beautiful part. You got to make these tough choices. I mean, a lot of me wants to play Jacksonville tonight, the defense. I want to play the Jacksonville defense. I think they're going to beat up on Tennessee, but I just think the Giants matchup is too juicy. They're a good defense. They got 27 points off Chicago last week versus this Washington team that's completely banged up. I think it's a lock. For me, it's a lock. I'm going with the big points in that game. And that's the only thing I'm gambling on. Everything else, I'm sticking with my team that I drafted, tried and true. I believe in it. That's it, guys. Fantasy football, harsh reality. And I may be running straight into the harsh reality of, this guy, we're very evenly matched. He's got great pieces. It's a toss-up. And all I can say is, I call on the power of Aikman to carry me through to the semifinals. We'll see you guys next week. We'll chop it up again. Also, I may be moving this podcast. I'm going to try it over on Instagram Live. So be sure and follow me on Instagram. We may, Greg Romero Wilson. Search me on all the socials. Greg Romero Wilson. I may move it there for next week. We'll see how it goes. You guys, take care. God bless. And go Cowboys!